So, thank you so much for coming. My talk is about React, and the talk title is React is hard, but not why you may think that it is hard. And I want to go into a story of how I learned React so that this actual entire thing makes sense. So, I learned React a good bunch of years ago. I was living in Portugal, working in a company in Porto. And I was in this team. It was me and another girl and another guy. It was also the first and only time where there were more women than men in my team. Never happened again. Don't think this is a Portuguese thing. It never happened again. And so we were working on this website, and it had a bunch of payment methods. And we had to build a new one for, I think in this case, was PayPal. And so all the app was in Angular 1, because again, this was like 5 years ago or something. And we decided, because we're very smart individuals, that we should make the new payment method in React. But the problem was, none of us actually knew React, except the guy kind of knew React. And we, both me and the other girl, were like, okay, I mean, fine, I guess that's that. If you think that's a good idea, let's do it in React. But, so we decided to move that to React, and the project was green-lighted and all of that. And then like 3 weeks later, we started the project, but both of them went on vacation because Europe and labor laws, both of them went on vacation for 2 weeks, I think. So I was left alone to do that project of something that I've never used before. So all I knew was Angular 1. And the problem with that is that I didn't quite know that you could NPM things that much, because Angular 1 pretty much came with everything. So what I did was when I made this small thing, I did everything on React because I didn't know there were packages to install stuff. So basically my router was just like one page. And when you clicked a button or a link or whatever, it just changed the state and showed another page. It was not good code. It was really, really bad code. Point is, guy came back like 2 weeks later and he looked at me and he was like, why didn't you use a routing library? And I just looked dead in the eye and I was like, what the fuck is a routing library? And that's when I realized that React itself, a lot of the times, is not the problem. I mean, use effect is complicated, but that's a whole different story. But React itself is usually not the problem. The problem is how huge the ecosystem is. So if you learn Angular, it may be harder to get started with, but all you have to know is already almost in the ecosystem. And in React, it's really not. React is just a viewing library, kind of like viewing, yeah. But the point is, that's what I found the most complicated about React, and to this day, I still have issues with, is making random libraries work with each other and not hate themselves, which happens a lot. It happens a lot, so yeah. So my name is Sarah. I'm a developer. I am mostly a front-end developer. I also do things with Node. I am Nikita FTW on Twitter because I specified, my parents wanted to call me that, but turns out Portugal has like a huge PDF list of names that you can call your children. And Nikita was not one of them in 1991. So yeah, turns out I couldn't get called Nikita. And yeah, I live in Berlin. I'm originally from Portugal. That's about it. Go Portugal in the Euro. Okay, so yeah, what I want to point out here is that React is not hard. It's also not easy. Don't think that's what I'm saying. All programming is magic. No, it doesn't make any sense. It's all magic. Nothing in programming is easy. And I want you to think that I'm saying that. But React, in the grand scheme of like from game development to console.log, it's quite in the middle. Like it's not hard, but the ecosystem itself is incredibly confusing. So what we're going to try to do today is that we're going to build an app. And this is going to be incredibly over-engineered, but that's kind of the point. And I'm probably going to screw up, but that's also kind of the point. And we're going to use routing. We're going to use some animation, state management, and CSS and JS. And before anyone says anything, I want to point out that you probably do not need state management for this. But I decided that state management is usually the most cumbersome thing. So I think it would be nice to show one that I really appreciate. So let's do this. Okay, so let me get out of full screen. Oh no, oh no. I hate full screen on Macs. I mean, on any laptop. It has nothing to do with it being a Mac. Okay, so first of all, I want to show you what we will be building. Oh, also, I have a second monitor to cheat. I feel like you might as well be honest, you know? because otherwise you're gonna have to look at me writing a crap ton of CSS, which is not good. Okay, so what I've done is that I compiled the list. So I went to EMDB and I scraped the page with, like if you order it by, you know, rating, but backwards it, you get this. So this is a list of the worst movies according to IMDb. I think this returned 30 movies or something. Yeah. So yeah, this is what we're going to be building. You can like a movie, and he does this really cute animation that probably took me longer than anything else in this app, and probably the entire app together. So that's nice. And that's about it. And you can also click it and go to this. So technically, according to IMDb, the worst movie of all time is Disaster Movie, which I have seen, and I completely agree. It's really bad. But that's besides the point. So what do we have here? This is the start. I can put this in full screen. Gosh. And let me just do something, because I have Telegram here if there's any problems with my presentation, because my internet is... Do you know when you like live in the big city and you're like, oh, my internet's going to be so good. I'm going to have like 300 megabytes of internet when I live in the big city. No, that's what I've realized. I had really good internet in like nowhere in Portugal. In Berlin, my internet's crap. Like all of a sudden it's just like, you know what? No, screw you. So yeah, so I have Telegram there if my internet fails. And you're like, if your internet fails, you don't have Telegram. Valid point. Okay, so this is what we have, which is basically nothing. So I have here an index.js, and we're going to create 2 pages. So we're going to create a home and a movie.js, and then we have an overmind. So what we're going to use for state management is overmind. And in here we have an index.js, and the GQL.js is the only thing that's already filled in. And so this is the endpoint that I'm using. So it's an Azure database, pretty straightforward in Azure. And it queries the movies, it limits to 30, gets me the ID and the movie. And then it queries one single movie with its ID. And I thought about using like Apollo or something, but I thought that was already too overcomplicated. So now we're using like, one thing that I also wanted to show is that any GraphQL query is just a post. So I just await the fetch of this endpoint. I give it the headers. You have to specify that it's application JSON. I mean, it depends. Some servers don't, but you know. And then you JSON.stringify the body, and the body is one of these. And that's it. That's a GraphQL thing. If you don't want to do any caching or anything, that's it. You can rename this to my beautiful GraphQL query. And that's about it. And it also takes a... Interesting. Oh, it takes the body, and the body also takes the... We'll get over that. The variable things here. I will forget a lot of words. English is not my main language. And then we have a bunch of components, and that's about it. So let's start here, I would say, and let's initiate React Router. So the only thing that you might find weird in the packages is that I'm using React Router 6, and that's because I like some syntactic thing that they have. There is absolutely no reason why you should do that unless you really hate yourself and you like using like very new packages. But well, I guess that's me. So let's go. So, and instead of rendering this, let's render this. So you just render, and I can comment this out. So comment, add line comment. There we go. So now we get exactly the same thing, but we get the home that shows in the path of /. Okay, so let's go to the home. And let's think about what we actually want to do in here. So we want to fetch all these movies, which makes sense. But the first thing that we need to do if we want to fetch all these movies is actually set up Overmind, which is our state management. So let's do that. Yeah. Okay, so first thing that you need to set up Overmind is just to export a config. So let's export const config. And let's do this. I may scroll, like, I have a Windows and a Mac, and I could not set up the keys to be the same. Also, my keyboard is very loud. I apologize. I'm also not going to change it because I love him. Okay, and actions. So you're going to have state and you're going to have action. So one thing that I'm going to do is start the state with movies is an empty array. Right? Yeah. All sounds good. So you have a state, and the state starts as an empty array. So now what we can do is create actually use this overmind thing. And to use this overmind thing, we have a hook that we can use because everything is now a hook. And it's really easy. I mean, it's not easy. It doesn't make any sense, but yeah. Export user, it's when I say easy, I mean it's one line. Equals create overmind. Really? Yes. Okay. So with this hook, you can then get the state and the actions and anything else. So state is whatever you have. Actions changes the state that you have. And these will all be functions. So now if I go to the index.js here, I can actually instantiate overmind and use it in our app. So the first thing that I need is to import create overmind and also import the config. And then what I need to do is say const, I'm just gonna call it value or something. It doesn't matter. God, I can't call it that because that's not UTF-8. Const value equals create overmind and you pass it the config. And now I just wrap all of this in the provider. So I say provider from overmind, which I did not import. How to import? Yes, it worked. Overmind React. And then in here, you close the provider. Otherwise, React will be like, what? And it's going to give you an error. Cannot repurpose state of undefined. And that's not a very good error. But what it means is that we did not pass a value here. And the value is equal to the value. And now it doesn't mean that. It does not mean that. That's not good. Because I already screwed up and I just started. Oh, I imported the wrong thing. It's create hook. Sorry about that. There we go. This is what I wanted. Cannot read properly. I don't like this. Export const config. Okay, yeah, that was code sandbox. God damn it. Okay, everything is okay. Everyone can just breathe. So now we can start on the homepage. Okay, so let's get the movies, which are nothing right now, but let's go to the homepage and let's, start it, right? So I'm gonna, instead of returning this, I'm gonna create a beautiful React fragment, which is, remember when React fragments came out and the React team was like, we made this and this and this, and then like fragments, we're like, oh my God, fragments. So we're just going to create an H1 here, and it's going to say worst movies. Oh God, as a programmer, I should really type better, and yet I don't, of all time. And close the H1. There we go, beautiful. And then we need to get the state. And like I said, we have a hook for that. So I'm going to say const overmind equals use overmind, and this will auto import it from the thing. And now if I console.log overmind, it's going to bring me a bunch of stuff. Yeah, so it gives me the state, actions, effects, reactions, and something. I don't actually know what this is. And if you want to know about this, just look at the documentation. Effects is an effect. So if you want to, an effect can be an API. So, and then in there, you have all the API calls that you make. And so instead of saying like, fetch this, blah, 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 you just say effects.api.getUser or something. It's quite nice. I like it. Okay, so, but all we want is the state. And yeah, if I console log the state, it's going to be empty. So what I'm going to do here is create a pre and do JSON that, no. I mean, yeah, I guess that's the thing. That stringify state.movies. I got this, guys. I got this. And girls. Pre. Okay, so it's just going to give me this. And I need to do the, the null to thing so that it looks pretty. There we go. Looks so pretty now. Okay. So now when this page starts, what I want to do is get the movie. So I also will need the actions here. And then in here, I say use effect. And I only run this in the beginning. And I say actions, which we have to create, that get movie. Movies, sorry. And it's not a function. I mean, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So let's say get movies, and this is how you create an action. You just say it's an async, it takes nothing, and it return. I don't think the async is there. I always have issues with knowing what. No, it is. I did not screw up. It's beautiful. And this gets something. Whoa, what is that? I don't even know. And close it. Okay, and what this gets is the state. So in our case, we don't pass any parameters. So the first parameter that always comes to an overmind action is the state and the actions and everything. So it's the context. So we get the state. Cool. Okay, so now let's get the movie. So I'm going to say const data equals await fetch. What did I call it? Fetch data. Huh, interesting. It didn't work. I don't like that. I'm just gonna copy all the things that I have in this one because no one deserves to watch people do imports. It's just sad. Okay. Okay, you fetch data, and then in here I have to pass the query that I want. So in here I say, and query equals queries dot movies, I think, right? Yes, that's what I call it. So then if I console.log this data, we get an array of 30 movies. So let's do it like this. And the only thing you need to do to set it to the state is that you have to say state.movie. I got this. Movies equals movies. And that's it. And then if I come here, when it loads, it already has all the movies. I do want to add a likes to it, so I'm just gonna do a map. There you go. It just does this, and then it has a likes of 0, so that you can actually like it afterwards. And let's make a homepage. So the first thing that I need to do in the homepage is to actually make it look nice. So let's make it look nice. I'm gonna create a main, and we come here, and everything is just gonna be using style components. And I'm gonna create I think that's about it. There's a main. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so let's put a main there. And let's create a heading as well, which is the H1 that I have in there, which shouldn't look like that. There we go. So what we're gonna do now is come here and say, so, okay, this is actually an H1. Did it work? Yes. And this is a main. So in here, I say main, auto import. Yes. Okay, cool. The most beautiful thing. Main. And now it looks like this, which still looks like crap. And I'm going to tell you what, because we don't have any global styles. So let's add that. I mean, in the beginning, there's always a bunch of back and forth. So what I'm going to do is import from here to the index. And we need another thing. So we need style components, and style components has something called create global style. So when you run this, give me a second, create global style. Did not do the thing. It's not going to do the thing. Okay, so another thing that I have is normalize. So normalize makes, normalizes things. It normalizes all the browsers and stuff, so it doesn't look different. And what this does is that it creates a global style for everything, and then you can just mount it as a normal component. So if I come here, the provider can only take one child, and everything else in here can only take one child. So I'm going to add these beautiful things, and I'm going to paste the global in here. If you're wondering if this is how I code in real life, it actually is. I don't know how I get anything done. There you go. Now it looks better. Okay. So now we have to make it look even better. Yeah. So this is going to be a movies, and this is the movies is going to be a UL. And I'm going to create it here, and this will make sense. It's like a really not very used thing in CSS, but this will make sense. Don't worry about it. Okay, so then we have movies. So movies. Okay, thanks. Movies. And then what we want to do is say movies.length. But first, we want to say if there's any length. So I'm going to say state.movies.length. Is that how you write length? I think so. We do something. So let me just show lol. Otherwise, give me living. Okay, cool. So in here, I'm going to create a movie. And I'm just going to show the name for now. So this is just going to be movie.name. Movie is not defined. That was bad. That was pretty bad. That was really bad. Okay, it was just not working, the thing. State.movies.map, and for each I get a movie, and return movie.name. It does not have a name. Is it movie.movie? It may be movie.movie because I suck at naming things. So let me try movie.movie. How did I even know? How did I even know? Because I suck at naming things. I'm just going to say it. I mean, I've already said it. Okay, so looks bad. Let's fix it. And what I'm gonna do is create a movie component. So let me come here and bow. Movie component, bow. And we're not gonna have this for now. Comment, headline comment. This is the like thing and it still requires a bunch of stuff. And now every movie is gonna be a movie, which makes perfect sense if you think about it. So we just mount a movie here. So I'm gonna come here and say movie. Will it import it? Yes, okay, movie. And I need to pass a key, which is movie.id. And I need to just spread the entire movie. And then I just get whatever I want on the other side. And now we got this. Okay, that looks way better. But you notice something really cool. And the first thing is that we have this. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is because what we're doing is creating a counter. So let me close all the other ones and just open movie. So what we're doing is saying that before we want to counter increment for each of these things. And the A is just this. So this is the link. It's the link. And we put the content on the actual counter. It's quite nice. It's quite nice. You're probably never going to use this for anything, but I completely forget about it every time. So it's fine. Okay, so yeah, that's about it, I would say, to get the movies, I think. Let's create a loading thing so it looks better. And it's just a bunch of CSS again. I mean, honestly, isn't all programming just a bunch of CSS? All front-end development. So loading. And now let's look at this loading. I did not do this. I copied this from the internet. Just want to point that out. So when you load the page, you got a fancy loading and then it loads. Okay, so we're not doing the like because I only have 10 minutes, but let's create the other page. So in the index.js here, I have this movie with a path. This does not exist yet, so let me create it here. Okay, so const movie. Return sub and export default movie. So this is the singular page, and I apologize, we're not going to be able to finish it. But in here, I can just import it, I think. No, this component, pages, there we go. Okay, perfect. So when I go here, I can now click it, and all of them will just say sub. Isn't that great? Okay, so what we want to do is create a current movie. So when you load this page, I want to get a movie by ID. And we can do that by using params. So let me copy all the imports that I have, because that is way faster, because writing imports is honestly half of the time that you spent. I know it got better, but still. So with use params, you can get the ID. So const ID equals use params. And if I console.log this ID, you get 1. Exactly, because that's the ID of the movie. So what we want to do is get a movie that has 1. Okay, so use effect. And let's do this. And what we want to say is we need to get the actions first. So const state and actions. Oops, not that. Equals use overmind. I'm literally sweating right now. So actions that get movie, and you pass it the ID, and you run this again when the ID changes, which I don't think will ever actually happen, but sure, why not? And then let's create a get movie. And this will also be a sync. And we will get the state in the first one. So, I mean, we'll get everything. And then in the second one, we'll get the ID, which is what we passed it, right? Cool, cool, cool. So most of this, this is the same. So I'm just going to come over here, come to the GQL thing. No. That's the wrong page. And what I do is that I say, oh yeah, let me put here single movie is null. So that's it can be an object, whatever. It's the movie that we're getting right now. And what I want to do here is say, they call it this, but sure. And the variables are ID, and I call it movie. So, and then I just say state that single movie ID equals movie. So, and what this does is that it creates a an object where the key is the ID of the movie. So if you go back and forth, it just saves it. And what I want to do, and then in the front of the front here in the movie, is that I want to say const current movie equals state that current movie that ID, right? That makes sense. So if I come here to the movie again, yeah, did I call it current movie or single movie? What did I call it? I bet everyone in the audience knows. I called it single movie. I just tried to, that didn't make any sense. Okay, so if there's not a current movie, we just return a main again and a loading on it. So main and loading. Okay, if there is a movie, oh, this actually should be down, otherwise React complains. React's like, I can't run this after an if. Otherwise, let's return the actual movie. Okay, so I'm gonna copy this. I don't think I have a nav. I don't know what a nav is, but let's go with this. Okay, so a nav is defined here. So it's just a style component. So it just has a list style of none and a max width of like 600 pixels. And now you get to the movie. But the beautiful thing is, okay, let's go here. And this obviously loads, right? But if I go back and go to the disaster movie, it doesn't need to load. And that's because it's already saved. So what I do is every single movie is saved, right? Yeah. And I would say I don't think I have a lot of time left. How much time do I have left? I can't hear anything. And no one is typing, so I have no idea. So we can either continue and never finish it. Okay, I'm just gonna go to my... So I'm gonna leave the likes, since I probably only have like, what, 2 minutes left or something? Yeah, I think I'm actually over a minute. And I'm gonna go to my presentation again. So remove this bad boy. And I hope that was still useful. Like, the thing we didn't get was the likes. But besides that, we made all of these things work together. And sorry I couldn't get to finish it, but I'll share the finished thing. Okay, so let's go. Okay, so this is the Code Sandbox link. You only have to memorize this, if that makes you feel better, but I'll share it. And the libraries that we used were Overmind for state management, which you can find at overmindjs.org. Style components. I actually used Framework Motion, but we didn't get to see it. That was the fancy little animation. React Router, I used version 6, which is still in alpha or beta or something. I am not quite sure. In the last year, I also wrote a book about all of these kinds of things. I don't think there's way more stuff in the book. So if you like the way I teach, just, I have purchasing parity. I don't know. I suck at this, but yes, I wrote a book. Actually, I call it a book. I don't know if you can see my hands, but I'm doing like quotes. I wrote a book. Yeah, so thank you very much. I am open for questions now. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for this little bit like workshop, I suppose. I have also read some chapters of your book, and it's really exciting. I really recommend each one to read it. And my first question is, what is your favorite worst film ever was?
Troll 2. There is no Troll 1, and there are no trolls in the movie. So, also the director was Italian, didn't actually speak a lot of English, but he tried. It's not good. It's beautiful. Just watch it. It's magical.
Yeah, and you're Portuguese, and that's why you can little bit understand Italian?
No. The director's Italian, so he didn't speak English, but he tried to having people... Like, he tried to explain in English to them, which turns out that it doesn't make any sense. Like, he didn't know how people in the US actually acted. So he was like, teenagers do this. And the Americans were like, no, they don't. And he was like, yes, I know teenagers in my country. Just watch it.
Can you tell us some more preference about Overmind? Because most of us didn't know this library. Maybe you can give some piece of advice. Why should we use it?
Overmind was made by Christian Alfoni. So Christian used to work with me at Code Sandbox. And the library, like if a real life example of like how useful this library is that all of Code Sandbox just uses Overmind. That's the only state management. The good thing that I like it is that I think, in my opinion, state management is a lot easier if it's mutable. Because if you try to make it immutable like it is in Redux, it just becomes a headache. And Overmind can do that behind the scenes. It can make it immutable for you. Like you say state.movies equals movies, it actually, like in the back of it, is immutable. But it's just the magic of you saying state.movies equals movies, and that's it. And everywhere around the app will know that it changed and will update automatically. And there's also hooks for use state, which will not. So for example, if you just say use state.movies, that component will only update if state.movies updates instead of saying use Overmind. That's also another way of doing it. So it's actually quite performant and it has quite good dev tools and it's just nice. Like I don't yell at it. I don't think I've ever yelled at Overmind. I like it. And I never liked state.
Yeah, just it's like a great chance when you don't yaggled it and it's everything works okay. Maybe you know some other. Yeah, and maybe you do you prefer some other state management library or just Overmind and that's it?
No, I usually, like, if it's something small, I use something called Zustand, which I have no idea if that's how you say it. It's called Zustand. It's quite nice. It's really small and it allows you to have a bunch of stores. And I would tell you to check it out if you're having like a smaller project. I don't think that it's very used for bigger projects. So I have like for smaller projects, I'll just use Zustand, which is honestly easier to set up than React Context.
Mm-hmm. Maybe we have some questions from our chat. It's the last one, and next step we'll go to the special chat, and there our audience can ask you questions directly. So, what is the difference between provider Overmind from React?
Oh no, it's just a React provider. It just uses context under the hood. The provider from Overmind, it actually has the problem of like what. I think Christian's idea was to make the name very easy to remember, but I think you should have called it something like Overmind Provider. So the provider is basically like what you do with styled components, which is called like styled provider or something like that. But Christian thought it was a good idea to just call it a provider, which may have backfired a bit.
So thank you so much for your speech, and our next step, as I said, will go to the special chat. See you there.
See ya.